Nut Nerd Podcast, episode 294. Go Canada.
Welcome to the Not Nerd Podcast. I am Nate Heath, and we are here to help you tech better. Here with me, as always, Mr. Dave Baylor.
Mr. Nate, it feels like it's been a coon's age since I've been able to see you. It has been a long time.
Yes, busy week and lots going on, and
yeah, I've been out of county, out of state, all kinds of places since I've seen your smiling face. So yeah, and it's not going to get any better. Next week, I'm gone for a week at a youth camp, so that'll be exciting.
Wow, yes, it's that time of year, the summer months, when travel and busyness tends to happen.
Yep.
But we better talk about some technology, some follow-up. We were talking last week about the Netflix and adding gaming, and I just put a little note in that, somebody was talking about it, and it really could be a streaming thing where they try to stream the games. It could be a cloud gaming thing, or it could download the games like the Apple Arcade does, where you actually download the apps to your device. So just wanted to mention that there are different ways that Netflix could do it. They're known for their streaming, but everybody else is doing cloud gaming. But Apple, you just download an app. So again, it's going to be a while before we see it, but just thought I would mention that there are different options there. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
And it's still a bit confusing. And I'm also at the point where, do I need another streaming gaming system?
Yes.
It's like my streaming video systems now. I've got so many things, and just recently signed up for Peacock. We'll talk more about that later. So I think I win. I have every single one. I've collected every single streaming service.
All the services. Yes. And in Rich Guys Doing Fun Things, Jeff Bezos went to space this past week. And we were talking about Richard Branson went somewhere around 50 miles. And Jeff Bezos, he went like 64 miles.
Oh, boy.
So he really went there. There was much ado about the shape of his rocket ship and relation to the male anatomy. The interesting thing, I saw a couple news clips, kind of a run of them afterwards, and they were like, this is just, a huge step, and this is amazing what he's done. And I'm like, I know Branson didn't go as far, but that was like a week ago.
Yeah.
And it really it was him, his brother, some 18-year-old kid, and then a woman with a really cool story who wanted to be an astronaut and never got to go to space, and she's like 80 or something like that. Dang. Of course, everybody was talking about it because space.
Yeah. Going up 64 miles, there are people who yesterday have hiked that far. It's like I've hiked 64 miles or whatever. But it's Earth's gravity makes it a little more difficult to go up
vertical.
Instead. Yeah,
through the air. Yes,
that makes it a little bit different.
Yes, and he did his posts. It was like a spectacle of media, and they did interviews afterwards. And some people took issue with him saying, I want to thank every Amazon employee and every Amazon customer because you guys paid for all this. So
he said that?
Yes, that was like his big quote.
Oh, no.
One of our favorite companies, Wise, they're actually suing Xiaomi and Roborock over their robotic vacuum patents. And I guess from my understanding of the story, that Wise, their robotic vacuum, which I think it's like $250, but it's not your grandma's robotic vacuum. It's got LiDAR in it, and it's really a high-tech, nice one. I've seen some reviews saying that, but they might get delisted from Amazon for that because of some patents and some issues. My head starts spinning when you talk patents. And
so Wise is suing Xiaomi, but Xiaomi got Wise potentially kicked out of the Amazon store. Okay.
Yeah, so I think they're going after Xiaomi's patent, saying they have prior art, so that they shouldn't have that patent, and especially be able to get Wise off of Amazon due to it.
And I think in other news, by no surprise, I think that Wise's product is just a shell around Xiaomi's equipment,
Yes.
with some modifications, and so it gets complicated.
Yes. And related to Wise, I was talking to my brother-in-law, Roger, and he bought one of the Wise watches, $25 or whatever they are. And he hadn't worn a watch for 30 years or whatever it was. He's like, I don't know if I want to wear a watch, so I'm just going to buy one for $25 and see. And he was telling me the other day, he said, yeah, which Apple Watch should I get? I'm used to wearing watches now, and I want all the functionality. So I think the Wise Watch is going to be a very good marketing tool for the Apple Watch.
It's like
for
a gateway
iPhone
drug.
owners. Yes. You get the Wise Watch, you get a little bit of functionality, and then you're like, I could see how this could be very helpful if it tied in really well with my iPhone.
Well, shout out to a friend of the show, Landon, who is currently wearing a Wise Watch and seems to like it. So maybe there's an Apple Watch in his future. Who knows?
Yes. Wes has the Wise Watch as well, and I know he's using it a lot and likes the exercise features. But I think if you have the means to do so, eventually people will kind of go, hey, you know what? Might be time to upgrade this to the next level. And we talk about AirPods a lot. We love AirPods. And I saw on Twitter somebody did a comparison of AirPods revenue versus top tech companies, a little chart.
I love these.
Yes, it's basically third on this list. Tesla at $31.5 billion. So this is for 2020. Netflix at $25 billion, AirPods at $23.05 billion in revenues, just AirPods alone. And then you go down and like Uber's $11 billion, but they're always losing money. Adobe's less than $13 billion. And then you have like Twitter at $3.72 billion down the line.
Now, $1 billion is nothing to sneeze at, but it really gives you a sense of scale to Apple, the size of Apple's company. When one of their products, which is not even their biggest product, is near the size of Tesla Motor Company. You know what I mean? It's only a few billion off, but $1 billion is hard to get to. And I hear, I can't tell you from experience, but I hear the first billion's the hardest, and then it's all downhill from there. But
in my experience,
but that's crazy. And I don't even know where the iPhone would be on this list. It would eclipse all of them. It'd probably be in the hundreds of billions of dollars worth of revenue. But wow, the lowly AirPod, as big as some global tech companies.
Yeah, and he did another chart later in the thread showing that if you added in like the HomePod and the Apple Watch, they are nearly equal with Tesla. I don't see like Facebook on here. Amazon, maybe that would have skewed the chart too much, but it does give you some perspective of how one piece of Apple is a very successful company. You know what else is successful? Dave's Pro Tip of the Week.
Well, I think the jury's still out on that one. But this week I thought we'd talk about something simple, and we've talked on and off about it over the years. But I don't know, you've got this cool camera app, and there's like a beautiful flower, and you're on a hike, and everybody's like, "Come on, hold on, I got to take a picture of this flower." And you fire up your camera app, your special one, and you go to take a picture, and there's a pop-up with like a star rating, and it says, "Hey, would you like to review our app or give us 5 stars?" You're like, "No, I got to take this picture." Nothing frustrates me more of when I pop into an app and I'm trying to do something quickly, and there's a stupid review request in there. It's like, come on, people. I'm opening your app for a reason, and it's not for you. So anyway, there is a way to turn off or at least help mitigate these instances where the reviews will pop up on your phone. And there are various iterations throughout the different iOS 10, 11, 12, 13 versions. But in the latest ones, there is a dedicated switch to take care of this. And our latest iOS version right now is iOS 14. And so if you're not on 14, your mileage may vary. What you do is you go into your settings app, and then you find the section titled App Store. And App Store and Wallet and Apple Pay are kind of in their own little tier. It's just a little bit ways down from the top. the settings screen. And of course, this is for iOS devices, not Android devices, although there probably is a setting in Android to do something similar. But if you go into App Store settings, into App Store, and scroll down near the bottom, there is a toggle for in-app ratings and review. And if that's turned on, the little note says, help developers and others users know what you think by letting apps ask you for product feedback. And most apps are pretty good about it. They'll do it when you first launch the app, or maybe not, when there's a new update typically. And then they don't talk to you the rest of the time. Other apps, however, every 5 minutes, hey, review us on the store, review us on the store. So they're abusing kind of the policies when they do that, but you can just kind of eliminate it altogether by turning that off. Now, Nate, do you remember the last application that popped up a message asking you to rate or review them?
Yes, I have a photo one that I just opened recently and it did it. So when you were talking about this, I was like, yes, you know what? I'm going to go turn this off. And I went in and it was already turned off. So apps find ways around it because they really, they benefit from the reviews. And I think I've talked about this before, that as half of Not Nerd, I feel like I should do app reviews and share my knowledge and help out these apps. But I just, like you're saying, you're in a hurry, you go in, I'm not going to sit down and type out a thoughtful review before I take the photo of my daughter, doing a backflip. It's like, I wish there was a way to have it, like, not especially take over the screen, just have like a subtle reminder, hey, could you leave us a review?
Yeah, maybe they need to have one of those little badges that's like on the settings, with like a little circle or something like that. Yes. It's like, oh, what's new in the settings? And it's like, oh, review our app when it's convenient for you. I would totally be on board for that. But when you're right, when it takes over your screen, and I think applications are able to put that splash screen on there whenever there's an update. So that's how they get around it, is they update their app every 2 days. And then they can ask for a new review.
Exactly.
So anyway, if you want to at least slow it down and close the gate a little bit, go in there and turn that off. And then once they have their complimentary review ask, the apps aren't allowed to do it any longer. And Apple does have a process that monitors that, and it will honor that little flag that you just adjusted. So, I mean, some people don't care. Most people don't use as many apps as you and I do, but it's like if you don't use a bunch of apps, like for example, I'm going to this youth camp. There may be a bunch of apps that I don't normally use because they're very specific to something I'm doing at the camp. And the last thing I want to do is spend 20 minutes launching these apps and then dismissing these stupid dialog boxes just so I can get my job done, So
exactly.
So anyway, that's just a little bit of a tip for you, and I hope you can find it useful.
Yes, I like that. Well, on to our takes. We mentioned Tesla earlier. So they released a new beta version of their full self-driving software on their cars, and it's actually the articles from Consumer Reports, and it's been making the rounds, just kind of talking about a beta of self-driving software. Maybe that's not one that we just want to let anybody sign up for and test on the open roads. And I'm sure they test it elsewhere. I'm sure they have private tracks where they've done testing so that it shouldn't be too egregious, but still at the same time, it's like, and I think I heard you pay like $500 a month to have access for the upgrade to and maybe that was wrong. That could have been incorrect information, but you do pay for the software upgrade. But man, that just seems
that may
dangerous.
Keep everyone but the hardcore people out of the beta.
Yes.
But yeah, you're right. It's like, hey, you're just a regular person and you're able to sign up for this beta for something that is out in the world and can affect others. And I heard another podcast kind of talking about this. Where's the consent? So if I'm a pedestrian or I'm another car on the road, I did not consent to you using beta software on a self-driving car. And so if there is an accident and the car does something that I wasn't expecting, I didn't consent to that. So it's kind of this move fast and break things mentality, or ask forgiveness instead of permission type of thing. But when people's lives are at stake, this is a little sketch, if you ask me.
Well, don't fear, because in the article I see that Elon Elon Musk tweeted a disclaimer that, solves all the problems. He says, running pre-production software is both work and fun. Beta list was in stasis as we had many known issues to fix. Beta 9 addresses most known issues, but there will be unknown issues. So please be paranoid. Safety is always top priority at Tesla. So
this is crazy. So on one hand, I'm thinking I want this technology to move forward and I want to get to a place where this is just normal. But at the same time, it's super risky and scary to just put this stuff out in the public where people are walking and driving around. So
yes, it's both sides of the spectrum on there. And yes, I look forward to a day where I no longer have to drive. Some sort of vehicle just shows up and takes me to my destination.
Yeah, I think they call those trains. Or buses.
Yes. Neither of which I have in my neighborhood. So it looks like $200 a month I'm looking up. Or you can,
and that's just to be part of the beta program, right? Once the feature is available, it'll either be built into the car or you'll pay one-time upgrade fee.
Upgrade, you would think, but people love subscriptions.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Well, sadly, we do have a couple security and privacy stories this week. The NSO Group, which is an Israeli security firm that sells the Pegasus spyware along with other ways for people to spy on people, a list of 50,000 phone numbers tied to this Pegasus spyware were leaked, stolen, found out.
Yeah.
And so some people have been trying to tie those phone numbers and do some investigation and testing to see. And they've found a couple journalists and politicians and people related to them that had this Pegasus spyware on their phones, which allows them to get a whole heck of a lot of information. There's actually a tool that you can, I heard it's not super easy to do to see if it's on your phone, which most of our listeners probably do not need to worry about that. But it sounds like, this is pretty serious. And the NSO Group, they told people that they only sell it to the good people.
Right.
Which is a very subjective term. Only the good governments.
Right. Now, this is exactly like, remember a few years ago with the San Bernardino case where the police and authorities wanted to get into the phone. They said, Apple, you need to make a back door in for us. And they refused. They said, if we do this, then anybody can get it. This is all the same concept. And this is proof that Apple was right, that if you make any back door or anything for law enforcement, it will be used by either bad law enforcement or it'll get into the hands of bad guys. Or, the tools are inert. They're not good. They're not evil. It's whoever is utilizing the tool. If these tools exist, it is a guarantee that a bad person or a bad government or somebody is going to get a hold of these tools and use them for ill. And that's why they shouldn't exist. That's why they shouldn't exist. This company should not be allowed to sell this software on the open market. Now, there's always going to be groups that create software that are selling it on the black market to do various things. But this should not be on the public market. The governments in control of this should say, you cannot sell this. But the reason that'll never happen is because those same governments want the tools, and so they're going to allow for the sale of it, which is pitiful, if you ask me.
Yeah, and they did some of the phones they were able to, connect to. They found evidence that it was installed. Now, you might hear, if you hear others talk about it, that, it was really affecting iPhones and they didn't find it on many Android phones. Well, in an article I was reading, they admitted that the way logging happens on Android, it wipes the logs every so often. So it's a lot harder to find find evidence that it was ever on an Android device than an iPhone. But of course, if it's Apple, that's what we talk about. So everybody, and they did, I believe, 14.7, iOS 14.7 was released, and that resolved this issue. But it was all the way up. I saw that an iPhone 12 Pro Max running the latest software before
okay.
this last week had it. And it sounds like there was a way that you could do it where you send a text message to the phone, but you don't even see the text message and it infects the phone. And my biggest question is that I saw somewhere that it can do audio and camera recording. And I'd be curious if it can bypass those system lights that they have now, the little orange or green lights that show up on your phone for that stuff. But yeah, this is, once again, and the Washington Post had an article saying how unsecure iPhones are because of this. And it's like, well, they're trying their hardest, but these people are also trying their hardest to have workarounds.
Yeah, it's hard for even a multi-billion-dollar company to go up against entire governments who are trying to hack their devices.
Yes.
Multiple governments and multiple companies trying to hack. So it's a whack-a-mole type of situation for Apple and Google with their Android products, and they can just keep innovating. And if I was running Apple, I would get my hands on this Pegasus software, and I would backwards engineer, and I might even find a way to infect it so that it doesn't work with a virus or a malware. It's like, hey, it's all fair, right? They're doing it to you. Do it to them back. So I might be a little malicious if I were Tim Cook. And who knows, maybe he's going to use his vast resources of billions of dollars to shut these guys down, because it really should happen.
Yes. And the other story is, speaking of countries, U.S. and key allies accuse China of the Microsoft Exchange cyber attacks. So the U.S. and NATO, which I did not know this, it is the first time that NATO, a military alliance founded in 1949 to confront the Soviet Union, has signed on to a formal condemnation of China's cyber activities. And so
they usually bow down to whatever China says because they've got the most money.
Yes, and so China is a interesting place, we'll say, so that we don't get wiped off the internet. And so it is interesting. We hear a lot about Russian hacks and all this, but China is a much more formidable opponent, I would say, when it comes to this stuff. So this is the first time that they're really calling out China on that Microsoft Exchange hack that happened in March that we had talked about. Yes, I think we will continue to find out that China has involvement in many of these things as well as Russia. They do stuff too, and all our other friends.
Exactly. And if you're not scared yet, you should be, because these are just the things we know about. There are many other things that are far more advanced that are going on that we don't even have a clue about, and probably won't for decades. So I guess look both ways before you cross the street. Mind your P's and Q's and all that stuff. Take your hanky with you. Be sure to be wearing clean underwear. So all those things.
Don't keep industry secrets on your phone. But let's cleanse the palate a little bit with a website that you found, lightyear.fm.
Yeah, so this is an interesting website that predicts what you would hear if you were a certain distance from Earth. Because we all know, boys and girls, as we have taken basic science in school, that radio frequency travels at the speed of light from Earth and just goes out into the ether, into eternity, and it's traveling away from Earth at the speed of light, and has been since Marconi invented the radio all those years ago. And so right now I clicked on this website and I am 6 light hours from Earth. I can hear what was transmitted on the FM radio here or whatever 6 hours ago. And the farther I go away from Earth, the farther back in time the content that I'm going to be listening to. So here, I'm listening to Work by Rihanna featuring Drake in 2017, because I'm 1.68 light years from Earth. I'm a couple years away. So it's just an interesting concept. It's a way to look at the vastness of space in a way that you don't normally think about. It's by what you're listening to. And it's just kind of fun to go through and watch, if I were at this point in space, what I'd be potentially hearing if I had a radio receiver out there. So There's another Justin Bieber back in 2016.
Yes.
Oh, now I've slipped into 15. Worth It by Fifth Harmony.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Dylan needs to resurrect his podcast and
yes, do the light year.
How many light years away from Earth? What would I hear? Anyway, it's just kind of fun. And I love these things that compare the scale of the universe in ways that we can comprehend. Because, Nate, I don't know if you don't think about these things as much as I do, probably, but the vastness of space can just make you sick sometimes.
Yes.
Like just how small the planet Earth is compared. It's just like a BB compared to the world. I mean, even smaller than that. But it's crazy to think that we're on this tiny little speck of dirt, and that's all that's keeping us alive. There's nothing else out there that's keeping us alive except for this planet.
Wow. Yeah. So I got all the way to 113 light years from Earth, and you'd be hearing songs from 1905. Let me go back to 110 because I actually got to the end of radio broadcast.
Okay, I'm just letting it go in kind of real time.
Yes. Take Me Out to the Ball Game by the Haydn Quartet with Harry McGonagall. Harry McDonough.
I'm still in 2012 with Gautier, somebody that I used to know.
Oh, yes.
I love that song, by the way.
Yes, that's a good one. But yeah, just one of those things, a very simple one-purpose website, but it gives you a little perspective on space and radio broadcasts.
And what's fun about it is that if you're a music fan and a science fan, it kind of mashes those things together, and so it's very interesting. Oh, Teenage Dream, Katy Perry, 2010. I'm passing stars left and right at this point.
Yes. Well, you know what else we're going to pass on is our picks of the week.
So I alluded to this earlier with my little Peacock comment. Now that I have collected and own all of the streaming services. I don't know if you knew this or not, Nate, but there's a worldwide sporting event going on right now. It's called the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo, even though it is 2021.
Yes.
So don't let that confuse you. But the 2020 Olympics are happening right now, and this happens every 2 years, because the Winter Olympics happen 2 years after the Summer Olympics, and so there's always something going on every 2 years. NBC has had the U.S. streaming broadcast rights to the Olympics since I was a child. Forever, it feels like. Now, that might be an exaggeration. I think it's been like 15 years or something like that. Regardless, I have constantly been frustrated with the way they handle this stuff. They do it completely different than any other country in the world. And I'll give you a few examples, but I was under the understanding that I could pay my $5 monthly subscription fee to Peacock Network, and they say this all over their advertising, unlimited access to all the sports, all the everything. You got it all, one-stop shop. And I'm just like, this is so exciting. I plop my $5 down, I download the app, and I'm like, I know there's events going on right now. Where's the live? There's no live events. And the pre-recorded events, U.S. only. Nothing outside of a U.S. competitor is visible on this spot. And I'm like, you lied to me. And I almost, I haven't yet, I almost went to Apple's help desk and got a $5 refund on this thing because I was so disappointed. Now you may be thinking, well, I just want to watch U.S. stuff. This is better than what I have on TV. And that is potentially the case because in prior years, you even got less than that. So I'll explain this quickly and get on to my pick of the week. But if you want to watch all the games, unlimited, live and stuff, you first in the United States have to have a cable subscription service, which can cost you probably $60 to $300 depending on where you live and what you've got. Then on top of that, you have to buy a sports type package or whatever in order to see everything. And then you might not even see everything. There are partner networks that you might also have to subscribe to see everything. So it could cost you $500, let's say, to watch anything you want, which, might be crazy because there's not enough time in the day to watch everything you want. But if I want to watch women's archery from Spain versus France, I should be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
I paid my $5, but I can't do that. So my pick of the week is Tunnel Bear. We've talked about Tunnel Bear VPN services before. Now, our neighbors to the north, America's ball cap, Canada. If you live in Canada, you simply go to gem.cbc.ca. That's the Canadian Broadcasting Company's streaming arm, the GEM network or whatever. You simply go to their website, and you click on Tokyo 2020, everything's there. Now it is skewed towards Canada a bit, but all the replays from all the sports, no matter what country is competing, are there. There are live feeds of pretty much anything that's going on live right now. I watched surfing yesterday live. I watched Taekwondo. I watched all kinds of weird sports. Like I said, archery and all these things that you just can't see live here in the U.S. I accomplished this by using a VPN, and it's a virtual private network. The reason I choose TunnelBear and why I'm recommending that people use this is because it is dead simple.
Yeah.
You download the app, you create an account. It's, for the sake of argument, $10 a month. If you prepay for like a year or 3 years, you can get it cheaper. But you pay $10 a month, and it will point your IP address to other portions of the world so that your computer thinks that you are in another location. So I simply set it to Canada. I hit the little button and the little cartoon of the bear digging a tunnel to Canada. It's kind of funny. And then I open up my browser, I go to the website, and I'm watching Canadian broadcasting companies, Olympic Games. And it couldn't be simpler, it couldn't be easier. Now, when I go into the Peacock app and I go to like gymnastics, what do I see? Well, I see replays of events that happened 2 days ago, right below all the news that tells me exactly what happened on the replays that I missed.
Yes.
And all the spoilers are right there for me to read before I can even find the content I want to watch that's, oh, by the way, not there for another day, because they're like 24 hours delayed. In addition to being a replay, they're like 24 hours delayed. So, for example, last night, the women's gymnastic finals happened. On Canadians' website, you can watch the replay just right now. In the U.S., that's not available till like tomorrow or something like that.
Jeez.
But the news is there. Anyway, so I know I'm talking a lot about this pick of the week, but I just have to share my frustration with somebody about how crappy the U.S. coverage of the Olympics Games is, how hard it is to watch the content, how easy it is to be spoiled on everything because the content is not available till much later. I'm continually, Olympics are supposed to be a time of the world uniting and getting together. And for the first few days of the Olympics, every single time, I'm just frustrated by all this. Now, I finally feel like I have it dialed in, and I'm going to be okay for the rest of the Olympics. But I can guarantee you, next year, I'm not even going to try it. Even though NBC will say, hey, you can watch everything. It's all free. It's all whatever. I'm going to say, no, thank you. Canada is my friend. I'm just going to go to my neighbors to the north, and I'm going to say, how's it going, eh? And we're going to watch content together. And I'm rooting for Canada because of this.
Yeah. Go Canada.
Go Canada.
Yes, I had a very busy weekend and was doing a little bit of traveling, so I didn't get to watch much Olympics, but I have YouTube TV, and they had a thing like last week that popped up that said you just want to add all Olympic stuff, so it's all on my unlimited cloud DVR, but I haven't had a chance to watch anything yet. But I did notice, we talked a couple weeks ago about the YouTube TV 4K upgrade. Mm-hmm. Well, I did the 30-day trial, and the only thing that I've seen so far on there that's 4K is the Olympics stuff. So, like, when I was looking, I was like, I can't watch anything in 4K yet until the Olympics starts.
But you pay for it anyway.
Yes, yeah. So I think I have a 30-day trial, but I don't know if I'll be continuing if they don't have any content, because the Olympics will be over before my trial's over. So,
well, I'll be interested to hear how the Olympic content plays out on YouTube TV, and if this might be a future solution. Of course, it's like $60 a month to pay for YouTube TV, and there are other options. Like I could have paid $65 to get Hulu Plus Live. I have Hulu, but I don't have the live portion. So like I said, starting at $60, you can access this stuff. But again, I'm not going to be fooled, because I guarantee you I'll plop down my $60 and I'll say, I want to watch Japanese fencing, and it won't be there. They'll be like, oh, no, you can watch the U.S. against Canada, but you can't watch Japan against Spain or whatever. And it's crazy. And you may, don't judge me. Don't say, well, why are you wanting to watch anything but U.S.? What are you, a commie? I want to watch everything.
Yes, I want to see the world through the Olympics. Well, my pick of the week this week, I have bemoaned many times about my automatic mileage tracking service, the little device I put in my car. I've talked about way more than I should have. Well, the accounting software that I use, FreshBooks, they have a built-in thing, and I hadn't been doing a lot of driving, but I'm doing more to clients and going out and about and going a little further for some of my clients. So I was like, I really need to get this figured out. So I looked in FreshBooks. It hadn't tracked anything since April, which it's now late July. So I'm like, and I remembered that I had tried one out before, and I might have even mentioned it. There's one called Mile IQ.
Okay.
And it is just specifically for mileage tracking. It just uses your phone. So, the always on GPS, it'll track all your trips. So I reinstalled that, and I've been using it the last week. And it's really nice because it tracks everything. But then you just go in and you swipe left or right, whether it's business or personal. And it's really just a nice interface. It just works really well, and it seems to track very well all of my trips. So Mile IQ, I'm on the free version. I think there's a plus version, but I don't know what else that gives you. And it even does something I haven't had before. It does round trips. So like it knows where your home is, and it's like you went here and then you came back. So it treats that as one trip instead of two separate trips. So it's just easier to go through. And so now I just need to get in the habit of once a week going through, categorizing everything. And then the end of the year for my taxes, it even calculates, 55 cents a mile or whatever you get in tax deduction. It calculates how much that trip was worth. And it's like, oh yeah, I drove out to Hood River the other day for work. That's worth keeping track of.
Oh yeah. That's a distance. Now, to be clear, this is software only, right? It uses your phone's hardware. There's no plug dongle thing you stick into your car's port.
Yes. So it's not tied to your car. It's just tied to your phone.
Okay.
So it will use more battery, and it won't be as perfectly accurate, but it's dead simple, and it'll get hopefully close enough for the IRS's needs.
Well, and that automatic thing really was giving you diagnostic information about your car's engine and stuff. As far as the GPS, it was still using your phone to begin with.
Yeah.
And maybe it can tie into your odometer. I'm not sure if it could do that or not.
Yeah, I wasn't ever clear on how much information it could get off there. But
I guarantee you your GPS at 3 feet accuracy is going to be plenty to calculate the miles.
Good. Yes. Yeah. So if you need to track mileage for anything, it even lets you categorize like what kind of business travel it was, like if you're going to a client or if you're going to a meeting, or so it really keeps track of stuff well. So far I am very impressed until they decide to shut that one down.
Yeah. So I would get this, but then it would be like, oh, it looks like you did something. Oh, yeah, I went to a Walmart to pick up ice cream.
Yes.
Oh, it looks like you did something. Oh, I went to Target to buy a video game. So, I mean, I'm not sure I'd really want this kind of tracking because it would just remind me of my
how much
wild spending of my money.
It would be interesting if there's a way to like filter out and just like not track anything under 5 miles, or something like 2.5 miles, where it's like, this was probably just a personal trip, or I don't need to have all these extra trips. That's just going to bog down my system. But
there will be that one time when you go 2 miles away to a client and
yes. I wonder if it does when you do the special classifications, if it starts to learn, like I drive downtown to DJ every weekend, which that doesn't tie into my business expenses, although I could try to spin that, but I'm not going to mess with that. Where if I can just say all of those trips are personal, don't count that. And if it learns over time, oh, hey, these are the clients that you go to all the time, or here's Best Buy that you seem to go to a lot, or whatever it is.
Yeah. It pops up. Do you have a second home? No, that's Best Buy. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Even though I spend hours there a week.
Exactly. Well, we have talked at you long enough. Thank you for listening. We're still working on other ways to make money off of you guys. So
don't forget about the Patreon. You can always
can always sign up with the Patreon. I think we even have a link on the website where you can just donate via PayPal. It's not tax deductible, but if you have money that's burning a hole in your pocket,
sure, we'll take it.
Talk to us. We will find a way to take it. We'll even give you props for giving us money, but we'd like to have a better way where you're getting more of a benefit out of it. But
nothing makes me happier than every month seeing my little email come through from Patreon and the $2 donation that I make to the Not Nerd podcast. It gives me great joy to see that little receipt come through.
Well, and you are our top donator on Patreon, so we appreciate that.
You are welcome.
Yes.
I mean, I am welcome. Yes, all of that.
Yes. Well, and we hope that you're all getting value. If you keep listening to the podcast, it probably means you're learning something, which is our goal, and helping you get out there and tech better.
Was it just humming the whole time? I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It wasn't bad. It just...
Is this better? Does it make you feel at home?
Yes. There we go.